Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Konnichiwa, konbanwa. Good morning. Good evening. It's always both a kind of a happy feeling and sad feeling when I see this trailer to the SIAF 2020 that didn't take place, but yet we have so many things to share. And I think that this approach, where we not only really revealed all the processes that were behind preparation of SIAF International Art Festival, that was planned to be started on December 18th last year. But we also, together with the artists, could produce lots of additional new materials, interviews with all of you, also elaboration of many ideas and sketches that were along the way to creating the final ideas for SIAF. And all these programs were introduced in the trailer, so there is really lots of exciting materials to look and watch and read on all these channels. But surely these live talks are, let's say, a more close, if you might say so, form of being together with the artists and the audience, because that was one of the main goals of this SIAF. Well, even if we are all far away, somehow, the five of us are in the same, like we are spread in two regions in Europe. Me and Diana, we are in Poland, and Shiro Masuyama and Dumitriu+Alex May, they are, the first one is in North Ireland, and Anna and Alex are in Bristol, right? Brighton, sorry, of course, Brighton on the seaside. Yeah. So let us then have a talk. And the title of today's meeting was, or still is, Pandemic Art and Biology. And well, in a way, I thought it is a maybe perfect title to start considering to what extent a conventional notion of art, let's say modern or contemporary art, does not really include biology in this very, wide conventional meaning of what art could possibly do. So especially, I think our approach in Sapporo, where the notion of contemporary art is really not well widespread. There is no museum for contemporary art. So we should start to ask these basic questions. And I think that this divide is being very much discussed in a new way, and artists and thinkers and scientists, there are philosophers, they are all coming from different directions to maybe this point where more and more people really start to understand that we cannot divide nature from ourselves, the nature from culture. So there are discussions about this, how also this nature-culture continuum has changed in the past few hundreds of years, only in Europe. But I think that this divide, that the reasons for this divide might go even, many more thousands of years back in time. These are for sure very interesting questions for to be thought about from really different points of view. So I thought that this maybe very theme, this meta, let's say, issue for today's talk would be this, changing relationship between biology or natural sciences or science in the broadest meaning of the word with art. And I think that each of the artists who are today with us has quite different approach to the field of natural sciences, but really the practice shows that this relationship with this very part of, let's say, nature is very crucial for his or her work. So when I start maybe with Diana Lelonek here, she approaches the field of, let's say, botanics. This is what she's interested in, and some future implications on that part that evolve because of our being in the world in such a way that we overproduce, overconsume, etc. Anna Dumitriu, she calls even herself a bacteria artist. She's like very much devoted and interested in the field of microbiology. And also the latest developments in the microbiology when it comes to, let's say, supported vision and visualization techniques of, we are able really to reach down on the nano level, but also when it comes to algorithmic techniques of working with such dimensions, I think here your practice is also very connected to what Alex does. And finally, Shiro Masuyama, whose approach to nature is related to, I would say, a broader field of culture and how we cultivate, let's say, a certain vision of nature in our culture. At least this is the issue in the project that he was intending to show at SIAF, the last part of an ongoing project that deals with this relationship of also when it comes to resources, who is the master and who has to deliver the resources to whom when it comes to really living with animals, for instance. But I would say that Shiro's practice also goes beyond, and he is an artist, is also more interested in really social political issues. And at least from what I've seen on his website, there are some projects that deal with our relationship with nature, but within this broader social and political field. So I guess my time is over now as an introduction. And now in our secret plan for this meeting, we have prepared the artist presentations for you. So they will share the screen with the audience, and we start with Shiro Masuyama. I also would like to add that there is a possibility to ask questions on the YouTube chat. So we are going to collect these questions, and I think we'll be happy to answer them. Okay. Shiro-san.
Can I start that? Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Your PD.
Okay.
Oh, great. Perfect. Thank you.
Can you make a full screen? Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Shiro Masuyama, Japanese artist, Belfast in Northern Ireland.
No worries.
Maybe. Anyway, I can hear my voice twice. Can you hear me now?
Now it's perfect.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. After I witnessed the Tohoku earthquake of 2011 in Japan, I started doubting about our current lifestyle based on consumerism and globalization. With traveling worldwide, I've realized 3 projects for animal hair of sheep in Ireland, alpaca in Peru, and camel in Mongolia with indigenous people in each country. The series of work entitled Self-Sufficient Life. If you travel in Ireland, you can find sheep everywhere. But nowadays, people have sheep only for eating. They don't really use sheep hair anymore. I just wonder why. And then I got the idea of the project using sheep hair. I shared the sheep in the farm in the countryside in Ireland. Yeah, this is before sharing. And then next. This is after sharing. This is after this, and then I made a jumper for the sheep using its own wool. So this sheep is wearing a jumper made of her own hair. Next page. Many local people in Sligo, Ireland have helped the realization of this project. After realizing the project for the sheep, I thought I can work more for different animals. And then I decided to travel to Peru to work for alpaca next. The alpaca has a long neck. At this time, I only share the neck part of the alpaca. Next, this is before sharing. And then next, this is after sharing. And then I made a scarf for the alpaca using its own wool. For this project, I worked with indigenous people in high altitude area. Their house is located in 5,000 meters above sea level. They don't have electricity. They don't have water supply. They don't have anything from the current civilization. But their way of next page. Next page. Their way of life is self-sufficient, and it has never changed from their ancestors. I found really fascinated how they survive. Next page. After my experience in Peru, I wanted to work more together with indigenous people who have a self-sufficient life. I found interested in working for the camel next. If you imagine about the camel, you might think the camel exists in the Middle East, but the camel there is not hairy. It's one hump camel. Actually, people only share 2 hump camel of Bactrian camel, which is hairy. The Bactrian camel only exists in China and Mongolia. And I decided to travel to Mongolia because more than half population of Mongolian people are still nomadic. Their lifestyle is self-sufficient because people use a camel for transportation. And at this time, I made a saddle out of the camel hair. This is before sharing. Yeah, this is after sharing. So this is, and then this is with a saddle I made from the camel hair. Next picture. After making a saddle, using a saddle, I had a journey together with the camel. Yeah, I had a journey with the camel. And Afterward, I really felt connected with the camera as well as I felt myself as a part of vast nature. The last project of a series of work of self-sufficient life, I was planning to realize a project for the muskox. It was supposed to be presented in the SIAF 2020. The muskox survived from the ice age. It primarily exists only in Greenland and Canadian Arctic. The muskox hair is known as kiviak, which is the warmest and most expensive animal hair in the world. Muskox generally lives in wild. However, after my research, I found there are muskox farm in Alaska, which sells kiviak product as a business. The farm is run by American people. For the realization of the project, I'm planning to work with two communities of this American muskox farm and Canadian Inuit artist Julie Fiala and her Inuit family. Julie's family lives in Joahaven in Canadian Arctic. I will travel there with Julie to document their lifestyle based on the muskox hunting. Julie will help me to knit a pair of horn covers for the muskox in the muskox farm in Alaska. Covering horns of muskox in the farm represent how animals are domesticated, losing their wildness. Metaphorically, I believe working with two communities which have quite different lifestyles bring many layers and awareness into the project. The project will be represent both difference and relation between immigrant and indigenous people, domestic animal and wild animal, as well as men and animals. The project the project will be represented with 2-channel video and 3 photographs of muskox before sharing, after sharing, and with the horn covers. Due to COVID-19, the project was postponed. However, I'm still planning to realize it after the pandemic is calmed down. For the realization of this project, I have sponsorship from Ogasawara Toshiaki Memorial Foundation, AIDA Awards, and Contemporary Art Factory. I have the support of North Face. Thank you very much for all your support. That's it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Shiro-san.
Yeah.
Thank you for this presentation of the self-sufficient life project that you continue since quite a few years. I'm really interested how let's say the focus in the project was also shifted towards, working with the people on site, with indigenous people that are like literally excluded from the so-called civilized life. So I think it's a big issue in your work for sure. So I'm also interested, how long did you manage to live and work, for instance, in this community in Peru?
Mm-hmm.
How long?
Yeah. How long? The project for Peru. Actually, I traveled to Peru just for preparation, because the area I went is really high altitude area. if you suddenly go there, immediately you get altitude sickness. So actually, I gradually going up, just maybe at first I just went something 1,500 meter city or something, and then next I went to 3,000 meter.
Slowly progressing.
Slowly, little by little. So totally, I went to Peru 1 month, but actually, the time I stayed in this highest area, 5,000 meter, is maybe only shorter than I expected. Just something 4 days, actually 4 nights. But really hard, because I have asthmatic. So just I cannot really even breathe properly. I thought I might die with a heart attack or something.
Sure.
But I'm really delighted go there, something the experience I had is really maybe I never forget that experience in my life. Just something mind blowing, and just also make me think a lot. Just especially Japan had earthquake. Just as I said in the beginning, I just started doubting about our way of life, and then just
that is this critical approach to really thinking of societies and countries as let's say those places where the multiplicity of interactions take place, and we just, I think, would like to have a more precise overview and to control certain things when it comes to way of life, to use of the resources, to having a certain attitude towards nature. And I think that we will come back to this issue for sure during our talk. Now I would like to introduce slowly and also to give slowly the word to Anna, Dumitriu, and Alex May. So microbiology, diseases, bacteria, and the connected cultural implications are a big issue for you, Anna. But you also, I love the way that you combine these, let's say, cultural issues in your work, or how the ideas in culture travel across time, with a really scientific approach and with cutting edge research in microbiology. And in a way, this field really unites you or connects you to the work of Alex May, who is I think I'm right when I say you are interested in the new and creative and maybe also uncertain ways of working with the image and the image synthesis, and how image can be created, and how also such notions as time can be kept within a medium of photography anew nowadays. So and these are the practices, like the visualization, working with of data, also modeling certain scientific processes, with also programming. This is the common field that unites you in your work. So please, the floor is yours. And yeah, now is the time to try to share the screen.
Yeah,
well,
thank you.
it goes better.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. So,
Can you see it?
Okay. Okay.
yeah. Hey, okay.
Yeah. Great.
So we decided we'd talk about the project that was going to be in SIAF 2020 that you weren't able to have a chance to see. So and talk about the background to that. But then in the conversation we can talk about the sort of the wider work, and this kind of brings it all together. So one of the microorganisms you missed out in the list was archaea, which are not infectious, but actually live inside humans just as much as kind of bacteria as well. But they live all around us. They found them in all sorts of places. But the one we worked with was found here in Yellowstone Park, and it's an archaea called Sophilobus acidocaldarius. And they've studied it, and it's a microorganism that is believed to be like possibly the first living thing on the planet. It's genetically more similar to humans than it is to bacteria, but they look more like bacteria, but they're much simpler. And they're, as you can see, this hot spring there it's very hot. They like to live at around 80 degrees or so, and they don't mind acid, they don't mind pollution and things like that. So they're kind of extremophiles. They live in extreme environments. And this is an example of them growing in the lab, being shaken about and a very hot temperature. And I worked with a scientist called Amanda Wilson, who sadly died, at Imperial College in London on a project called the MARA project, which was about making molecular robots. And what they were doing was using a technique called electron cryo microscopy, where you actually freeze the microorganisms in 3 dimensions, and then you can look at them in 3D under the microscope. And what they were interested in is that these archaea have cogwheel-like motors on them that spin tails around and allow them to move in an environment. And they thought if they could see how they actually looked, they could probably try to build them using a technique called DNA origami, where you can actually fold DNA with staples to make a kind of sculptural form. And this was the plan, because the idea being that if they could work out how to build these motors, they could replace the kind of the tails that live on the archaea with drill bits, like molecular DNA drill bits, and they could be attached to, say, bacteria and put into the human body to drill into what they called bad cells that you don't want. So they could be bacteria, they could be cancer cells and things like that. The project was quite a blue sky research project, but they're working on this, and the motors on the bacteria will be powered by ATP, like they would be in the archaea. So I went and worked with Amanda in the lab at Imperial College, and we looked at these motors and how they were formed. And you can see here one of her images that she created of one of these archaea, and you can see these tails. They're quite hard to image because they're round, so the tails could come from any side, and it's quite hard to focus the microscope on them. So it's a very challenging, very cutting edge project. But I was fascinated in this idea that they were talking about making them robots, biological robots, and this healthcare implication in the work and things like that. And as I was learning about the ideal environments for these microorganisms, and I mean, this is something that's stuck with me for a long time, is this idea when we talk about saving the planet, we're not really talking about saving the planet, we're talking about saving higher mammals in the planet, because the archaea and a lot of the bacteria would actually be quite happy with a kind of post-climate change world where it's very hot or or even very cold in some cases, depending on the microorganism. There's psychrophile bacteria, but very hot in the case of these archaea, and very highly polluted. So they don't mind this kind of thing. And in fact, they're what turns the atmosphere into something that higher mammals could then exist in later. So there's this interesting discrepancy there, and we were interested in that. And we were interested in this idea of the robot and the microorganism. So the piece that we created, and Alex is going to talk about the next steps, the piece we created is called Archaea Bot, a post-singularity and post-climate change life form. And what we combined in it is a neural network inside an underwater robot that could sense and feel its environment and experience its environment, in scare quotes, and would be representative of this idea of the life form that would live on after climate change, after we've ruined the planet in some way. And so this neural net kind of alludes to also the idea of uploading, this sense that transhumanists talk about, that you could upload your consciousness to a robot. If we had the ability to really understand our brainwave patterns and stuff, then potentially it could live on. So the idea is that potentially it could live on inside an archaea and one of these underwater, very simple robots. But of course, that's a very dystopian solution, the idea that we've destroyed the planet, and so we've then uploaded our consciousness to these kind of post-climate change robots to live on. But we're kind of alluding there to the sort of the hubris, if you like, of the kind of techno-positivist, the tech billionaires and stuff like that. So they come up with these very hubristic solutions, like a sunshade for the planet to stop climate change or something, which sound like they could really easily go wrong. And sometimes they're very dystopian. So we were kind of playing with the idea of like, what would be a dystopian solution for this situation that we're in. So Alex will talk a bit about the techniques that we used, because the project was funded by Arts Council England, and then also produced in collaboration with the EMAP project, and we did a residency.
Yeah, so we spent a month at Laboral down in northern Spain, working on developing the project, which, as you can imagine, an underwater robot presents a unique sort of set of challenges. Robotics are challenging at the best of times, but so we started sort of creating the sort of form of this robot. We wanted everything to sort of be contained within it, and we wanted to use the kind of best data that we had available. So working from the images that Amanda was providing us with, we created these kind of the parts where the motors sat on the surface of this robot, based upon their best images at the time. And we put all the electronics inside of the robot, and here you can see the controller board and the motors and everything. And one of the main challenges, obviously, was making sure this didn't blow up. So we did countless hours of testing of different waterproofing techniques and sort of making this thing kind of work. There it is, all covered in like a sort of, it's like a liquid rubber designed for marine waterproofing. And kind of here is the sort of final result of all that.
The first instance.
The first instantiation that we showed at Ars Electronica in, was it 2018?
Yeah.
2018,
Yeah.
So the way that it's sort of kind of operates is that it's got sensors inside of it. So it's detecting the orientation of the robot, it's detecting the water temperature, it's detecting kind of the movement and the speed of the tails and the direction of the tails are spinning. And this is all the data that we could record and then work into the neural network. So then we would use that data to sort of further refine how it moved in the future. And as Anna sort of alluded to, it's an over-engineered kind of thing. I mean, people sort of ask us kind of, what does this neural network actually do, and but it's kind of just putting the technology in there as a sort of commentary on this sort of approach, rather than sort of trying to find, because it's very difficult to find the sort of fitness function if you sort of know about neural networks to sort of really make it the most efficient sort of archaea bot that we can. Do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I was going to say it's a sort of the neural network is a conceptual choice in there. It's a sort of thing I feel very strongly about, a kind of notion of truth to materials, because I came from a fine art background, and there's this thing about having the real things that tell the story and bringing them together. So I guess it's a bit like the found materials idea in Duchamp as well. So I've got some more images of its different instantiations in different galleries, and we made a second version of it. The first version was kind of fascinating at Ars Electronica because it came straight out of the residency without any real long-term tests. So we spent most of Ars Electronica 2018 repairing robots in our hotel room, and soldering parts and waterproofing things, and quite stressed. And after that, we worked out all the different things that we needed to change and improve. And so now it's this very well-functioning robot, because the challenge with I think artworks is that they need to work for a long time. So we work with one of our collaborators was Daniel Polani on this project at the University of Hertfordshire, and when researchers at universities build robots, they can sort of, they function for a bit and then they do repairs, and they function for a bit and they do repairs. But when you're making an artwork, it needs to work for months and months. So we had to engineer a lot of things into it that would make it work, and not so these tails, which are moving around very beautifully and very fluidly in a kind of very lifelike way, they need to not get caught. Sometimes they'll actually dig down and burrow down into the stones and flick the stones around, which is fascinating to watch. It's tethered there to a power cable. That's because it needs to run for months on end, and you can't have gallery staff having to recharge batteries every few hours, so we keep it tethered. But it could actually flow free, and our dream one day is to kind of do some buoyancy sort of tests with it, and have one with a battery inside and let it out into the world. So these are some images. This is Heck in Basel, and also at Silver Salts Festival in Halle. And this is at the Bondit Marge in Bourges in France. And this one is at I want to say Kunstpalais Langen, I think.
Yeah, we also had the pleasure to show it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Media Art Biennale in Wrocław.
In a fantastic setting in Wrocław, where it was in an exhibition with something that was a huge inspiration to our work, as sort of lifelike robotics and things like that, is the Sensor that you had in that. So that was amazing to be in the same exhibition as that. And it's been shown under slightly more difficult circumstances during the pandemic. As you can see, somebody's looking at it with a mask on here. And this is with Container in Croatia. And they had two different exhibitions, one in Zagreb and one in Dubrovnik. So it's been like that. And it's also been another innovative way of exhibiting the work in during the pandemic was in the Cluj Festival of what was it called? The
Cluj, Romania.
Yeah, it was in Cluj in Romania. They had a festival just in December of art and science, and they took over the semi-derelict, I think, Hotel Cluj, which is this like fabulous old crumbling hotel, and they used the window spaces. It's right in the town centre. And so all the artworks in the exhibition were shown in the windows, so people could come and see the works and it could still happen, but they were all in the windows. So that's a picture of it there in situ there. So it's been really interesting trying to work with it in the pandemic as well, because luckily we'd already come up with a way of exhibiting the work when we didn't have to go, and kind of plans for how to exhibit it without us. So that was useful during this time to have. We did video of how to install the robot and things like that. So but we were constantly kind of chatting to people, and is it behaving right, and showing us films and things. So that's really interesting. And we met a lady last week from the Kunstbelehr Langen, and she said it became like a pet for us, because it's kind of cute, but it's got this dark side to it, and people kind of like drawn into it because you come into this dark space and then it's moving and it looks very lifelike. And she said it became like this pet, and we were all taking care of it as well, so in the gallery, which is kind of interesting. So there's this sort of care side to it which doesn't really come to the fore, but that's sort of linked to, I guess, the climate change and the care of the planet and the care of these microorganisms, because we are actually all superorganisms. We're full of viruses, we're full of different bacteria, different archaea, and they're growing on us and they're around us and they're regulating the climate, and they're integral to everything. So I guess the piece is drawing links there as well, and that's sort of this sort of post-human idea is where this sort of artwork sits, I think. So it's not directly related to this pandemic, but there are other pandemics, I guess, that could kill more people. You know, it's I work a lot with Yersinia pestis, which causes plague, and that obviously killed substantially more people.
Yeah, I will definitely ask you about your projects dealing deliberately with pandemics and in the past and diseases, bacteria. But thank you a lot for explaining this, let's say, also critical aspect of Archaea bot, as it is opposing the, let's say, this hype for technology and all these transhumanistic ideas, also such as geoengineering, and thinking on this big scale that technology has the power to save us, when as it is also opposed to this less anthropocentric viewpoint, and this less or more embracing all species attitude to life, which is currently also expressed in many writings of many theoreticians, and is being also expressed in those nice and really promising words like kinship or the concept of Gaia, in which all the species, including microorganisms, are collaborating in a, let's say, a concept of life that is rather an alliance of different species. So definitely Archaea about I think it's a sharp commentary on these issues, but also presented in a very playful way. So that is probably why the work has been actually since 2018 really touring around the world and being shown on within different exhibitions and festivals in Europe and beyond. So our plan was to bring it for the first time to Japan, and also in this great let's say environment, including Senster, by Edward Ignatowicz. So this is also because this work deals with the concept of life as such, and really forces us also in this playful way to just rethink and re-envision this maybe a robot resembling a pet, but truly containing this downloaded consciousness, and the pet being taken care of some master. All these ideas, I think they can be really read here in a playful way. It's almost like a fairy tale. So that's probably also the reason why the work has been so popular within, like for very many audiences. I could experience it in Poland, in Wrocław, but also we have included the Arkia boat in an exhibition in Lviv, in Ukraine, where it was also very, highly appreciated, and it's always a pleasure to have those guided tours and to speak with people about this work, because it really works here and now, and brings you also to some deep future and deep past at the same time. So there is actually lots of issues to start with. It was also really fascinating to hear about those DNA origami and all these nanotechniques that the scientists are using now, also to imagine and reimagine the notion of life, the notion of medicine, the way we solve problems, I think that art provides here an important opportunity also to ask why. Like basically, why do we want to live such long lives, and what is the value of life, and what could we change, not to save the higher mammals only, but a bit more on this planet. And I think it's a good point to start the conversation with Diana Lelonek, whom I'd like to ask to unmute herself. Hello, Diana.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Do you hear me?
So, yes.
Do you hear me? Yes, it's
Yes.
okay. Cool.
Yeah, it's okay. So, Diana Lelonek, when it comes to her collaboration, like between art and natural sciences, botanics is her field, and some kind of also let's say future-oriented botanics that proposes a new categories of descripting life forms that emerge from the conjunction of plants and human-made waste, debris, or of many areas of our life, just as they, those remains, just as they are mixed up in waste dumps, they really represent the most of us. What do we like? What are we using a lot? And how do we not care about, let's say, our own environment that we are shaping and co-shaping in this extension? So Diana is interested in the ways that these two worlds come together in form of new species of plants that coexist with human waste. But the project that Diana will be referring to, and that we're planning to show in Sapporo, is one of the works, ongoing project, for sure very important for her, as also her PhD thesis was devoted to this research project, also developed in collaboration with the Faculty of Botanics of the University in Poznan. But there are other works and projects by Diana that really work directly on this let's say cross point in which our consumption really crosses with the right to live of the whole ecosystems on this planet. Diana, I stop speaking here now, and the floor is yours.
Okay. Hello, everybody. It's very nice to be here with you. And I will try to share a screen.
It starts to be visible. Yes. Now we
Yes?
see the Center
Okay.
for
Great.
Living Things.
I prepared a short presentation about the project Center for Living Things, which is a part of SIAF. And this is a very long-term project because I started to work on it in 2016. So I think it's a project that I can still develop, and it's a big research around basically illegal waste dumping sites or illegal landfills. Places around our cities, in forests, in nature areas, where people collect waste illegally. So this was the starting point, because when I was traveling around Poland, for example, I found a lot of places like this. We can go. I would like to go to Google Street View, but then I need to share not only this screen, but I need to share everything. Okay. Okay, let's back to presentation. So I made a field research around wild landfills or dumping sites, and I also put some walks on Google Street View. I don't know if you see it right now, that I am on the Google Street View right now. Is it visible?
Yes.
Okay, so
Perfect.
yes, so now it's, I'm sorry. Give me a second.
So basically, there are quite a few of these sites.
Yes, so if you would like, you can just
Unfortunately.
check Center for Living Things on Google Maps, and I put there some trash walks, let's say. For example, this space is next to Warsaw, when I'm living right now. And so yes, so I made a huge research around places like this, and then I started to look for things which basically start to be like a hybrid form between plants and things, objects, ways delivered by people, which are not useful for people anymore, but start to be used by plants, bacteria, molds, and insects, and even many more organisms like fungi. And I started to collect this kind of hybrids. And then I've got an idea to create a project in a way, because this is artistic project, but from the other hand, it's also a science project. And I've got an idea to create something like a research institute, like a research center, and I call this project Center for Living Things. And here you can see some points. So the first step is the field research. The second, it's a build of the institute's collection. The third thing, it's a waste plants farm. I call it like this, but I will show you later what is exactly mean. And also, as Agnieszka mentioned before, I am working on new kind of botanic classification for these post-natural habitats. So this is the greenhouse where I spent 3 years, and this is the old greenhouse, which is not. Scientists don't use it anymore because it's an old greenhouse, which is a part of the botanical garden in Poland, in Poznań. And I asked for collaboration when I decided to create this Center for Living Things. I asked for collaboration, botanical garden, which is real institution, because I found that maybe if I start to collaborate with a real important institution like botanical garden, the Center for Living Things became also more serious institution, let's say. So they just offer me, and I asked about this old greenhouse, and I started to collect my objects there. Then I found that maybe it will be great to have a new department at the Botanical Garden dedicated to this post-natural living, post-waste hybrids and new kind of habitats growing on landfills and dumping sites. And after 2 years of collaboration with Botanical Garden, finally in 2019, they agreed to open a new department dedicated to these waste delivered habitats, because I found that maybe it's not that, like, at the Botanical Garden, usually we can find a lot of different departments, like, for example, area dedicated to plants from Europe, from Asia, from desert, from different kind of environments and regions. But I start to think that maybe it's not enough nowadays, when almost all our planet is changed by people, and we have very huge waste overproduction, and our waste start to be like something like natural part of environment. So I propose to develop this new department dedicated to waste. And it was in 2019. It was for my PhD project as well. And as you can see here, this is signed for the part of department, and I treat this waste as a regular, let's say, objects, as a regular part of the Botanical Garden, with descriptions, with information what kind of moss or plants living on this mob. This is mob. Yes, so it was very important part of the project, because for me it was very important to use this project not only in gallery spaces, not only in the field of art, but go with this outside. So this part in the Botanical Garden that I made between 2017 and 2016, 17 and 2019, it was very important for me. And the second way for me was to show this collection during expositions in many festivals or biennales, and in gallery spaces. So I produced for this some kind of museum cases with air conditioning inside, and some humidity control, and watering system. So I created this kind of cases, and then I started to show these objects also in galleries, and I built these cases in a way, in similar way as, for example, at the natural history museums or in geological museums we can find. So this link was also important for me. And in these cases, you have objects and also some descriptions about what kind of plants Moses living there, and also about what kind of material is it. And yes, and also with this, let's say, new kind of classification. Yes, I also produced something like this. This is a bigger aquarium where I put a part of the ground from the textile environment, textile dumping site, and where the whole ground was covered by old textiles. And these textiles start to play a role
for this,
soil, or a natural ground, let's say, organic ground. Of course, it was more like polymer textiles, not wool or something like this. So basically, it was plastic ground. Yeah, and here I have some examples. If you would like to get more information, you can also visit SIAF, and there is a link to centerforlivingthings.com website. And this year, I also would like to publish a book, the Atlas of, or Encyclopedia of Waste Plants, the book, which will be I think I would like publish it during next 2 months. So okay, anyway, this is for example pseudo-stone substrate, and yeah, this is like I regularly do it. It's a list of species I found here. Of course, I checked this all species with in collaboration with a botanical garden in Poznań, and also with scientists from biological department from university in Poznań. Also, here is a background and where I found it and location. Mostly I made the research in Poland, but I also made the research in some countries in Europe. And we had the plan with Agnieszka, we had the plan that I can do a research also in Sapporo, or in area around Sapporo, but as you know, it was cancelled. So this is, yeah.
Maybe I could drop here a line, because on the SIAF 2020 Matrix website, which serves as a kind of archive for a speculative exhibition, there is a tiny story written by Diana, a short story in which she imagines what it would be to find this scarf in, in the special national park in Hokkaido, where those pink mosses are in full bloom, and there you can actually really learn about the difference between a polymeric scarf and the silky scarf made from natural material. So that was indeed our plan to conduct research in Hokkaido. I think that that the way we deal with the waste also describes our relationship with the planet in a very sad way. Would you like to continue to go to present short? You are running shortly out of time.
Maybe shortly. Just I would like to just show some pictures, and we can finish with my presentation. So this is post-food environment. And I have some Nike shoes, Adidas in my collection. So they are also sometimes connected with some brands. And here is one of my favorites. This one is with wild strawberry. I found it in a mixed forest, also next to Warsaw. This is glove. Is post-textile environments, polymer.
So basically, the taxonomy is based on the material, and of course, so this is the one part of the new description of such a new plant species that is a merger of natural and the cultural, let's say. So
yes,
also the name.
I have a lot of fun with this classification. It's very, it's only like an interpretation of the real scientific taxonomy. It's not. It's more like a freestyle. So sometimes I use also name of brand. Like here, it's Postrama. I don't know if you know this in Japan, but in Poland and in Germany, this is very, very popular kind of
margarine. Yeah, but also the name of a very powerful Indian god. So Rama. If you look from other perspective.
Okay, this is interesting point. Yes, and also of course I found a lot of post-electronic waste. So of course it's not very easy to live on this kind of waste, but I found also some species which can do it. And here I have some examples of macro photographs where it's visible how deep this relation is. And also, this is the last one in this presentation. This is also some photos from microscope. So here you can see some little parts of, it was plastic foam. And here you can see some plastic elements, and also some micro polymer fibers from textile. So this relation between plants and waste very often are going very, very deep. I think this is all now because we don't have enough time.
Thank you, Diana. Thanks a lot.
Can I ask you some questions?
Stop.
Please go ahead. That's lovely.
About Diana's work, after finding that kind of project merging with nature, if you find it, you just keep it and then keep growing with watering water or something. I'm just wondering, or you just take a picture and then that's way you present a condition of something. Or I'm just wondering.
Yeah. Yeah, basically I just take a picture and then back to the forest. No, it's joke.
Okay.
It's joke.
But,
Yes, botanical garden.
Mhm.
When I collaborate with botanical garden, and now I'm looking for a new space for this collection. They normally these all objects were outside.
Mhm.
And I didn't do a lot of with them. Just kept them outside, and sometimes during summertime watering them.
Yeah.
Of course, probably process of overgrowing were different when I took them from the forest and put to the botanical garden. For sure,
Yeah.
the process were changed.
Yeah.
But I treat them like samples to show to people how these processes can go in different kind of environments, let's say. So in this way, I think I did it in similar way like botanical garden do. That just they present only samples from different environments. Of course, these plants are not appear naturally at the botanical garden. So it was similar approach. And for exhibitions, of course, these cases I produced are not enough to keep these objects still inside. They are only like
outside or something.
Yeah, you can just keep them for a month or something like this during the exhibition time. And of course, not every kind of and not every kind of plant you can take out inside.
Yeah, actually,
So, yes, mostly mosses are okay with this, but not all of these objects were present in the galleries because it's not possible. And very often it's. I also had some. I asked myself as well, what is ethic and not in this case, because if they started to live in this forest on these plastics, what we should do, leave it there or take it from there, because they are still plastics, but from the other hand they became a habitat. So this is very I think difficult question, and this project I think is asking also about it, that this is the proof that our state of mind where the nature and culture are very divorced. It's not really...
I understand that. Because actually previously I also tried to work for plant after working for animal, and then just if you bring some kind of wild animal from for example to the gallery space or a museum space or something, this kind of wild animal only grow outside. And then as soon as I bring that kind of thing, started dying actually. Maybe because the place you found that kind of object are really nice environment for plants to grow. I can imagine. So if I just try to bring that kind of object with a plant inside the gallery space, maybe really hard to grow.
Yeah, this is for sure. Thank you for this question and the comment. This brings us maybe to the conclusion that there is lots of more disciplines that should be and will be interested in the coming future in this merger between nature and culture. I think that this meeting, the presentation by the artists, their comments really showed how profoundly natural sciences are connected to contemporary art practice nowadays, and that the artists really work with that you use different aspects of this relationship and mainly ask questions I would like which are super important to be asked in first place. I think we can try to find answers, and for sure for this art is super important and very helpful in the way it can like made us change the perspective of looking at things. And here I would like to ask Anna and Alex for maybe closing comment, because I think that all of the works, and we concentrated only on the pieces that were planned to be shown at SIAF, but I encourage everyone to check the artist's website, also to look for the other projects. But I think that it is like the pandemics. This is the third word from the title. Mm-hmm. It's really around, and I think it is not about this virus only, but it is a kind of, the state of emergency that will that just manifested itself, and it will stay with us for longer time. If I think that here in Wrocław we had -14 on last Sunday, and already +10 4 days later. So then you ask yourself, okay, something really, is not under control. So your work deals with the different time layers, I guess, of this problem. Whereas Shiro and Diana Shiro even reaches back also to some cultural practice and asks again what today a relationship between animals and people in those communities could be. Your proposal is very much going, I would say, in both deep time directions. So could you, somehow maybe comment on what could art do for these kinds of states of emergency, or, how to deal with this pandemic or another climate catastrophe, if, even if working on so big time perspectives and dealing with different kind of proposals, are we capable to change? And aren't we wrong sensing this kind of change, or is it maybe only our art bubble? That is also the question. So I would like to ask you for commenting this, for wrapping up the meeting, Anna and Alex.
You got something?
Well, I was going to say about it's really sort of highlighted the sort of perception of time, and you mentioned time, and we've sort of spent this year in lockdown. We've repeated the same things day in, day out. And our brains will compress all of these memories, because that's how brains work. They compress similar things. So, although it's a year out of our existences, it will seem a very small thing in our minds, and it's all this idea of looking at climate change or from the beginnings of archaea to the ends of archaea is this. It's all about how we perceive time and how we can, and I think that's where the art techniques kind of come in, because they can sort of transcend our own innate perceptions of how we perceive time.
And I think as well, it's a sort of a question of knowledge and how we understand knowledge and how we build on knowledge. Because in microbiology, what I find, like what we're researching now, is stuff that at the very beginning of microbiology, these are the same issues and themes, and we're refining them, and we're finding out when we're building on that. But quite often people go down a route and they don't look back. And we have to look back because it's like people have experienced all this before. They experienced it under the time of the Black Death and the plague. And this has been global situations, and behaviors are repeated. So many aspects of these things are repeated over and over again. But I think humans don't really tend to remember more than about 50 years. So, and less quite often. People think, look back 25 years and they think they've invented something new. But if we can look back over time, then we can look forward. So that's what I'm interested in, is like looking at the past and the history and the development of these things and where it all comes from and where it might go and what the future science is going to be and how we can think about that with a reflection on the past. And the biggest issue coming up for us is antibiotic resistance. So I'm working a lot with that at the moment because that's the next challenge. Of pandemic. It's killing nearly as many people as the COVID-19. It killed 700,000 this in the last year. So if you think and we don't even notice. So these are the things I think we need to think about.
Yeah, thanks for commenting on this need to go back. And I think that this is also like the possibility that art gives us, because artists refer to those changed perspective, and they within their projects and their research they really travel across time as they want to they are really interested in, I would say, those new contexts in which cultural ideas pop up, and we know there are such big themes in art reoccurring, coming back after being considered over and over again. I mean, like, culture and nature has been a big issue in Romanticism, right? But now we are again here together with the artists, discussing these issues and pondering on them. And I think that we have to look back, we have to look forward. So this trying to live here in the zone between of roots and clouds, it brings us again closer to the SIAF 2020 and its theme this year. So thank you for joining this talk. We again encourage everyone to go on to the websites to see the interviews. We have collected lots of materials to really think about these issues. Thank you for joining today. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.